Tai sveiki visi kino pavasario žiūrovai ir netyčia užklydę į šį virtualų pokalbį. Šiandien labai džiaugiuosi pristatydama jau 4. susitikimą su kino kūrėju. Ir šiandien su mumis yra filmo Sinonimai režisierius Nadavu Lapidu, pokalbis kalba. Tai kad dėl to nekils kažkokių sunkumų ir dabar persėti, jeigu kad. So, I could introduce you a bit. Thank you so much for joining us, even in this very extreme situation. I'm not sure whether you're used to doing virtual Q&As.
I've done some under different conditions. I mean, not because of a crazy virus, but because I couldn't be present at the place. So it happened to me once or twice, but yes.
But anyway, the thing is that now Lithuanian people, they're watching films at their homes, and I think it's great that somehow can manage to still present the key elements of the festival, which is basically meeting the audience between the filmmaker and the audience. So thank you so much for joining us today. And let's go to your film, which actually brought you a Golden Bear. And many of your films, it said in the interviews that they are somehow related with your personal experiences, and they're sort of coming out from your like experiences that you had as a person, as a filmmaker. So can you tell us a little bit more about this film and the basic urge that sort of made you to make it?
Yes. So hi to Lithuanian audience, and Synonyms is I mean it's a film that is totally based on my own personal experience. I was like almost all the Israelis. I was after finishing high school. I served for 3 years and a half in the army. Pretty combative service, and I was a very good soldier. I mean, I guess that I didn't totally realize the concept of life and death, so I was courageous and silly, so I wasn't afraid to die, so I was a very good soldier. And then when I finished my military service, I went back to my hometown, to Tel Aviv, started to study philosophy, to write a newspaper, to write some novel, to go out a lot, to party a lot, and life was pretty beautiful. And then one day, about a year after the end of my military service, I had a kind of, it was as if I felt, I don't know, if I heard the kind of divine voice. I mean, I don't believe in these things, but I felt a little bit like Jeanne d'Arc or something like this. So suddenly hear a voice telling her or telling me that I must run away and save my soul, leave Israel and never come back, save myself from this place. From I felt as if I'm saving myself from, it's very relevant today, from an epidemic. But the epidemic wasn't corona, but was the fact of being Israeli. And 10 days or 2 weeks later, I've landed in Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris without having any concrete plan for my future, but with the very, very, very determined existential program to stop being Israeli and becoming French, to die as an Israeli and be reborn as French. And I followed this program for about 2 years. I mean, I stopped talking in Hebrew. I didn't want to talk in Hebrew, and I devoted myself in an obsessive, almost addictive way to French language, which looked to me like a kind of possible redemption from this Israeli destiny. So for me, like each word that I studied in French was like a small triumph over myself, over my identity, over my past, like a possible way to free myself. So I was a little bit like in the movie. I was walking in the streets of Paris and mumbling words all the time. Well, while we are doing this Skype, I'm here. You can see maybe the window. I'm in my apartment in Tel Aviv, in Israel. So you can understand that at the end, I went back to Israel. But the film follows more or less my autobiographical experiences. Actually, during this period, the period I spent in Paris, I didn't know back then that I'll make cinema films. In a way, I discovered cinema in Paris, but back then I was mainly writing novels, but I didn't know exactly what I'm going to do with my life. But already then, I took some notes describing sometimes things that happened to me and sometimes feelings and sensations without knowing too much what I'm going to do with these notes. I didn't think at all at this moment about making movies, etc. So, but when I decided to make this movie, I went back to these notes, and in a way they were a little bit like I think in a way they enable me to recreate this fever, this urge, this extreme existential mood that I felt back then in Paris. I was wandering the street. I was most of the time I was hungry because I ate each day one meal, each day the same meal. Well, you can have the receipt in the movie. I wouldn't recommend you though. But so you're hungry. Everything was so extreme.
But actually, between your own experience in Paris and this film, there's, as I understand correctly, there's a gap of years, and you made in between other films and so on. So maybe you can speak about the particular momentum, why maybe Synonyms happen to be, now, not maybe your first film.
Well, I think it's a mixture. I think first there's also like concrete reasons. When I went back to Israel, I studied cinema in Sam Spiegel Film School. I started to make short movies. They had this certain success. It enabled me to make a feature film. In a very natural way, I began with films that took place in Israel. And I think that I couldn't even imagine that back then that someone will enable me to make a movie in Paris. The French people, they have enough French directors or enough international directors who would love to shoot films in Paris. So I wasn't even considering making a movie about it. And also, I think that in a way, maybe I needed, in an unconscious way, this gap of years. Because for the best and for the worst, there was something unsolved for me in these relations with friends, with this experience. On one hand, with the years, I got kind of perspective about things. On the other hand, I'm still, from time to time, feel like this Yoav, the main character of the movie, bumping again and again and again into the closed door of the French Republic. So I think it was a process of years, and actually on a practical level, what happened is that after my first feature and then second feature, Policeman, the kindergarten teacher, I got a lot of suggestions from French producers. One of them invited me to come to Paris. Invited me to fix the meeting in the coffee. I didn't have any concrete idea for a movie in Paris. I started to invent all sorts of stupid plot like this. All of them looked to me very artificial. And really, while going to the coffee, suddenly I told myself, like, but why are you inventing things while such a crucial thing in your life took place in this city? And suddenly everything went back, and then the way, in a way, for the movie was already pretty clear.
The closed door, the motif of the closed doors, which we see at the end, I think it's very, very metaphorical, and also maybe puts this film in a very, let's say, universal level, that even without having this Israeli experience, we can identify with it, because I think that the movie speaks a lot about the mixing of the world nowadays, and raises these questions of whether it's possible to delete one's identity and replace it by something else, and so on and so on. And at some point, we hear you talking about your father's grandfather that abandoned his Lithuanian identity and didn't speak the language because he didn't want to speak the language of someone that beat him. And then we know that actually you have roots in Lithuania. But, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like maybe you see it because for Yoav, and we see it for you, it was somehow impossible to leave Israel and to replace it with something completely new. But for people of the other generations, of course, they didn't have a choice. But just I thought that it's very interesting.
First of all, regarding Lithuania, as you mentioned, the origins of my family is Lithuanian. My grandfather was born in Vilnius. Well, I planned to come this year with my father to the festival. He was already in Vilnius. For me, it would have been the first time. We planned to come together, and then reality changed our plans. But it's strange because on one hand, I couldn't give the kind of wouldn't like also to give a kind of general formula whether it's possible or impossible to immigrate. What I can say is that there's something very, very similar in the way that my grandfather was immigrate, or many Jews in this period were immigrating to the way they were immigrating to Israel. I think was very similar to the way I tried to leave Israel, because in both cases it wasn't like people from, let's say, Estonia who are going to Germany in order to work a little bit and to earn some money, and because life is more comfortable. The idea was really to detach yourself from one thing, to erase it completely, to deny it completely, stop talking the language, for instance. The language, I think, is one of the things that connects us the most to our homeland, to ourselves. To deny it completely, to erase it completely, in order to be really reborn. I can't talk about another notion. And I think that for instance, I can say that my grandfather and people from his generation, they did it. Maybe they had to, but they paid a very high price. I mean, erasing yourself, erasing your identity. I think that and it's strange because I think that we and also myself, we are used to think about ourselves as free people in a kind of cosmopolitan universe who connect by Skype and email, who are not bound anymore to their geographic environment. I was born here, but I can go there and I can talk with 10,000 people in 10,000 corners of the world, etc. And then, when I can talk about the movie, I think that, for instance, for Yoav, there's something in the body it's as if his identity is written, is graved, is written on his body. And his past is written on his body, and he can deny it in all the possible means. I mean, he can run away, and he can stop talking the language, and he ignores his parents and his family, and he cares Israel with all the negative adjective that he finds in a French dictionary. But it's in a way as if the body it's like a shadow. Like, try to run away from your own shadow. So I think that he cannot totally eliminate the body. And I mean, and again, I'm not a spokesman of identity. I'm not for or against identity. I'm just trying to say that our concept of ourselves as totally free creature, in a way without roots, because what does it mean to be free? It's being without roots, because roots limit your freedom. Sometimes it's let's say that life is ambiguous and dialectical, and the other thing, because the attempt of you have to be integrated in France at the end is a failure. The other thing I think is that you can see places like France, for instance, which see themselves as places of human rights and places of integration. But the question is, to which extent you really integrate someone if you are not ready to accept him as he is, but only as you think that he should be. And I think that I mean, and again, I'm not a politician, and my films. I think that my films, they should touch, expose, reveal meeting points between ideas and concrete moments, between thoughts and body, between politics and aesthetics. But I think that, for instance, in the movie, I mean, you can see this idea of being generous towards the other as long as he behaves according to your own criteria. This, of course, I doubt if you can call it real generosity.
As the movie is like really centered on your arc, on this one character, which is your somehow alter ego. Can you tell how did you find Thomas here? Because this energy that we see on the screen is somehow like I never saw something like that, and it's just incredible. How did you find him, and what was that you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I share your opinion that I mean, for me, Thomas here was kind of a miracle. It was like a miracle. He was a theater student when we casted him in a theater school, but he never played in a movie before. He was never on set of shooting set. He began as a judo champion. I mean, and then when there were a lot of hopes that he will bring Israel Olympic medals, etc. It was really a very huge talent in judo. And then from one day to the other, he abandoned it in order to become a dancer. And I think it's something that you can feel about him. I mean, first of all, is almost unlimited physical capacities, but also the fact that he has this mixture between something very fragile and tender and masculine and feminine and in the same time hidden violence. I mean, you can feel that he can explode. He's very nice, very polite, but he can explode in every second. He's dangerous. He's unpredicted. And this is something that exists also. I mean, that I think that Tom Mercier, I mean, it's the character, but I think that it's totally exists within Tom Mercier. I mean, you know, when you, as I said, the film is based on myself, and when I wrote the script, I was naturally, I was imagining myself in all these scenes. That a lot of them took place in reality. And then when the casting process began, in the beginning, I was a little bit, I was really worried because I told myself, okay, whoever I will find, it won't be like the real thing. And in a way, I should have shoot myself when I was at this age, but of course I couldn't because, but also, I mean, I told myself the real person who was supposed to play inside it is young Nadav, but it doesn't exist anymore. So, and the moment I saw Thomas, I forgot all of this. I mean, he was like my better version in a way. I think he made me forget all of it. I mean, it was much more interesting suggestion. And you know, it's like you feel as if you have Superman on the set. It's really, because whatever you ask him, he will do, because his capacities are unlimited. Like you can ask him, I don't know, to climb to the Notre Dame while reciting all the synonyms in a French dictionary, and he'll do it in a second. It's, you know, I think it's,
can you speak a little bit about the metaphors in the film and obviously the synonyms that you choose for you have to recite? Is I wonder if they're just random or they all have some sort of logic behind it. And also this giving away the stories, that I think it's also very symbolic and it sort of raises many questions that it's very interesting to speak about, to think about afterwards.
The synonyms, you know, it was a big issue. I mean, I was a little bit like trying to do it like in the, you know, a little bit like this automatic writing of André Breton, of the surrealist, like Tom and myself, we were like walking in Paris. These scenes that he's mumbling were shot, unlike the other scenes, they were shot most of the time by myself and Tom, only both of us. I mean, the other scenes, you know, they're like normal set with a lot of people and DP, but these scenes when he's wandering the streets of Paris, mumbling, walking both of us, and we try to feel something, and we were like throwing words like this, tack, 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 tack. Afterwards, you know, you you make a choice. So the moment that you make a choice in the editing room, of course, but I never, you know, I tried to, also the choices that I made there, I wanted them to be instinctive in a way, so that they will reflect a certain mood, a certain existential melody, but won't be didactic or will not explain things, you know. And also, you know, it's also related to the many times, not only to the meaning of the words, but to their sound. Because I think that for Yoav, I mean, the words in French, it's beyond their meaning. They are like melody, they are like music, they are like song. I mean, so sometimes, you know, you can think about a word like a sordid, which the meaning is pretty awful, but the sound is beautiful. So you can say like sordid like this, you know, 200 times, and it's like a poem. So there was also really something about the musicality of the words as a song, as a material, and about giving away the stories and then asking them to get them back. I think that in a way, the moment that you have asked Emil to give him back the stories, this is in a way the moments where this existential project to erase himself is failing. I mean, this is the end of this existential project, because I mean, if you want to kill your past, you must be a man without stories. I mean, but in a way you have never succeed in detaching himself completely from his stories. Even, I mean, he can, again, arriving there, all his belongs are taken, so he doesn't have anything anymore, and he's naked as a baby. He can be reborn, and he gives up his world. But the stories keep on accompanying him. So I think that the kind of desperate movie tries to, I mean, to give them away, but then he takes them back, because, as he says, maybe they are not. I don't remember exactly the sentence, but it says something like, maybe they are not special, but they are mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the moment that you are defined by your stories, so you cannot run away anymore from your past. And this is also maybe characteristic of a future artist, that suddenly is connected to his own stories.
You started to speak about, maybe it's going to be my last question, because it's only an hour of Q&A, but I think what is also very, very special about Synonyms is the two different sides of the filmmaking. One of them is like almost cinema verite, you know, like when you said that actually you're behind the camera and you're always walking, and we have this very shaky, they lower quality images. And I think that it takes quite a lot of daring to combine these two types of filmmaking. One which is like very clean and aesthetic and super, like super quality, and another side. What's the idea behind it, and was it like from the beginning of your maybe initial Synonyms idea?
You know, I think you probably you live once and you don't make a lot of movies, so I always feel that I must dare, otherwise and also, you know, I mean I think there's something, I mean, it's always strange to me that movies tell a lot of stories and a lot of them are personal, but 99% of the movies, you feel that they look in a way formally more or less the same. And I find it hard to understand, because for me it's, you know, it's as if you write the most personal letter, the most personal love letter to someone, but you take the formula from Google. I mean, not trying to find a form that fits your feeling and ideas. Like it seems to me strange, but in a way, you know, when I began the movie, I told myself that I would love the film to have, on one hand, these extreme tension, inner tension and contradictions that it contained, but on the other hand, to have the same energy, or maybe the same existential music. And I think that in a way, it's pretty interesting, because on one hand, as you say in the film, there's a mixture of cameras, a mixture of shooting strategies, and very fixed shots and extremely dynamic shots, and sometimes it's extremely elaborate and very complicated sequence shots. In other places it's like totally wild, but I feel that at the end all of them combine to the same melody, to the same energy, to the same urge, from the first second of the first image on the sidewalks of Paris till the last frame of the movie. It's in a way you breathe once. It's the same respiration. It's the same movement. And I think this movement is the movement of the main character, and this movement is the movement, for me, it's the movement of a fighter in the most deep way, not fighter in the army, but someone who's all the time in a conflict, in the fight with the actual moment. I mean, I think that at the end is sometimes who all the time, that's why he's bumping also into closed doors, because it's like, you know, if you want him to whisper, he will shout. If you want him to stand, he will dance. If you want him to be inside, he'll go outside. If you want him to stand, he will run. It's something, And I think that again, sometimes it's done by this accurate tension of extremely elaborate shots, and sometimes by the wildness of the movement. But they contradict, but they also complete the same poem, the same song.
Nadavu, but you're working on your next film, which was supposed to be ready sometimes very soon. Does the situation somehow interact with it, or you're going to be able to finish it? And
it turns everything extremely complicated. Luckily for me, I had already the time to shoot and to do almost the whole editing before all of this crisis began. So now I'm slowly finishing the movie, and since Cannes Festival was delayed, so I don't know if the film will be there, but it gives a little bit more time. But yeah, but of course, but let's hope, that in 1, 2, 3, 4 months, the world will be more or less just the way it was, with all the terrible and marvelous things that exist inside it.
I think I have definitely the film that I wait probably the most for.
Wow. Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. And I'm, as I told you, I can only hope that and believe. And let's do it. That I will have the chance to come to Vilnius next year with this movie.
Exactly.
Pleasure.
That will be the biggest pleasure for us as a festival and for our audiences. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Take care, you as well. Big kiss.
Now the audience is going to watch the Synonyms trailer.
Great.
Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Is it you?
Je ne veux pas travailler,
Je suis arrivé en France pour fuir Israël. Fuir cet état méchant, abominable Dieu, lamentable, répugnant, détestable, abruti, étriqué, bas d'esprit, bas de cœur.
Aucun pays n'est tout ça à la fois. Choisis.
Les ducs, les duchesses, les princes, les princesses.
Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire ici?
Je ne sais pas. Je serai français.
Ça ne suffit pas.
Partir, repartir.
Attends, c'est bon.
Rouler, bien rouler. Surtout en parlant d'une femme. La vie est sublime.
La France. Tu connais qui comme français à part nous deux?
Céline Dion. Ne pas relever la tête. Ne pas relever la tête.
En France, personne ne te demande quelle est ta religion. Parce qu'il n'y a pas de religion.
Abjurer, parjurer, abhorrer.
Parce que Dieu n'existe pas.
Go away, Dad.
I'm going away. You won't find me.